Hello.
I want to talk about your book today because I think for me, I found it really sort of like enlightening and had some light bulb moments. And because the stuff that you've said to me before, but I think it's acknowledgement that when you go in and dealing with difficult stuff, you can hear something over and over again, but you don't hear it. Yeah. It's hearing it at the right time. And I'm grateful that yourself and my previous therapy repeated a lot of stuff, because there were a lot of stuff that I blanked out because I'm like, I don't want to hear that. But now I'm in a position where I'm hearing things.
Well, it's when you're ready to hear it, really, because if you imagine when you watch a film, and you watch the film, and then when you rewatch the film, there might be something in the film you say, I don't remember him saying that last time. And so it depends on your frame of reference for what you're thinking about at the time, so where you are in your own mind. So there are many things we miss out on in the world because of that, because of the stuck in the zone frame of reference.
And the bit that I want to read out is a bit about the body, which I've had ever since I was little, and raped and experienced child sexual abuse. I've had issues with disconnecting with my body, accepting my body, seeing it as a separate entity, not wanting anything to do with it, or just even not acknowledging it, that it exists, or even punishing it, which I didn't realise what I was doing. But just reading one page in this book, it was at that time where that hatred was very much alive in me. And it just made me think of my body in a very completely different way, rather than as an object that I wanted to attack. I'll just read the page because I think it says it all.
Yeah, okay.
Wait, can I just acknowledge that this is amazing that I've actually volunteered to read something?
Yes.
If anybody's seen any of the other videos about school, they will know that would be my worst nightmare.
Yeah, because it was, please don't pick me, please don't pick me.
I was just at a school for all the years I was at school. I sat with my fingers crossed underneath my legs, just going, please don't pick me, please don't pick me. And so really I didn't know what was going on at school, because that's all I was thinking, but it was because I didn't want to be seen or speak out loud, but here I am volunteering to read this.
Well done.
So I have progressed in some ways. So this section is called The Body and Why Are We Normalising Cruelty? I am of the belief that the entirety of the human body functions as a brain, communicating through intersubjectivity and musicality. This communication can either flow harmoniously or disharmoniously, depending on how the body is treated. It is unfortunate that we often treat our bodies with less grace than objects around us. We tend to place more value on external objects and take better care of them, neglecting the wonderful machine that is our body. This strange phenomenon can be attributed to the egoic stories that society has ingrained in us. These fictional narratives dictate how we should look, live, treat ourselves, treat others, and even how we should feel. It seems that mankind has deemed our bodies as not good enough. We consume external materials and alter them to fit our own preferences, believing that we know better than nature itself. We insert, eat, use, abuse, and manipulate these materials until they're unrecognisable from their natural form. And by we, I mean our bodies. However, let us consider what science has to say about the mechanics of the human body. Mankind may perceive the homeostasis of the body as a complex, and this appears to be the only humble acknowledgement of our inability to create a human being from nothing. Instead, we are given the tools to bring life into existence, yet we cannot truly create a human or even an apple without utilising the tools that have already been provided for us. Unfortunately, these facts may have been overshadowed by the egoic stories that dominate our thoughts and by those who believe themselves superior to the force that created the planet. And then just another few lines. Individuals often seek acknowledgement and validation from external sources, yet they frequently neglect to listen to and validate their own bodies. And then it goes on to talk about how the body and the brain, and how the gut plays a part and actually is a huge influential part on all our well-being.
Yes.
And I think that section was really important to me to read, because of my issues with food and the eating disorders that I've had all my life, really. And I just found it really a really light bulb moment, and a really, it was just at the right time when I could hear it.
Because you were ready to.
Yeah.
I think it's recognising as well, when, for you personally, how you've taken, you know, what written in the book, and also, well, thank you, also, you know, the acknowledgement that majority of people have an eating disorder, but they don't recognise it. What I mean by that is, you know, the beginning of things for us to eat, as I said, that when you look at animals, they don't need medication. Animals don't need injections. Animals don't need any of those kind of things until we interfere with them. They don't need them. So it's us that creates a problem on the planet. Animals don't create a problem. And so, but not all of us do. Those that have been taught through their ancestors about who we are and being their human beingness. But when you come into the world of business is to use this machine, this precious machine of ours, which is our holy temple, or what I deem as that, into, you know, growing up, into not loving yourself. And when you go to school, you learn not to love yourself. Your parents are going to send you somewhere. I'll give you an example. There was a girl who was being bullied in school, and so parents says, we're going to take her to karate lesson. And I said to her, imagine going to work and somebody's going to bully you, so you have to go and learn karate. But you have to go and learn and take karate. It's not her, is it? I don't hear anybody that says, for me to go to work, I'm going to have to learn how to go and defend myself. And yet children's rights are taken away from them. So they, you know, it seems normal to say, well, they need to defend themselves. And so they're already brought into a world of cruelty. And so from that, then you know, when you send your child to school, your child learns, because it's been made to go to school to take its human rights away, as I've said before. So because of that, the child learns not to love itself anymore. And so it's that learning of the only way I can now find my worth in what I'm being taught by these people. Number one, I'm in a prison, so I can't leave when I want. I'm spoke down to. I'm shouted at by these strange people, you know, or strangers rather than strange people. But yeah, it can be strange, I guess, if you're walking into some other people are shouting at you, but you don't know them. They have a rights over me that I don't have over myself. They tell me about my body, that it doesn't need to go to the toilet right now, so they've overridden my human rights. A lot of them don't have empathy, so they're not showing, you know, when you look at the meaning of what a teacher is, they're not showing me that. So, but what are they showing the child? They're showing the child not to love themselves.
Yeah,
And
that's what I learned from school.
Yeah, that's what we all learn. So how then are we going to be accepted and get love? Well, if I get good grades. So look, my daughter's got good grades. Well done. Don't give up. You need to keep doing that. You need to keep doing that. So we get taken so far away from what we already are, and then we're injected and we take on a lie. And the lie is that you're not worth anything, or you're not good enough unless you get good grades. So now you're just on a treadmill of a working machine, and that's what you're going to do. So that's the lie. So that's also putting something upon the body, you know. And then the other thing is what you're being taught is eating disorders, which is you're addicted to food. And that comes under the law of saying, let's look at good and evil in that terms. It's one of the 7 deadly sins, is that gluttony. So what do? Well, we create gluttony because we're eating products that we're addicted to. So you want to eat more of them and more of them and more of them and more of them. And that's what we're doing. So, and what are these products? Well, we were taught to eat like animals do. They eat seedy things. And that's what we're going to eat. So we're going to eat seeds, and seeds help us. So what does the opposite do in the world of good and evil? Takes the seeds away. You get seedless grapes and seedless this and seedless that. It's like, why? Why, when nature's already created, so everything that we need has already been provided for us, and yet it's been changed and orchestrated so somebody can make money off it. And so in the world of good and evil, who would do that? Who would take all of the nature things that are doing you good, and then the other things that aren't doing you good, you can make money off. So which one's good and which one's evil? Do you see what I mean? And that's what we're doing. So then, you're not going to be eating the food that's going to keep you well. Now you're going to be eating these chemical foods, that don't keep you well, that make you sick, and then we'll normalise sickness. So now sickness is being normalised, and then, so when you're younger, the previous generation would have said it wasn't like that in my day, because they can see a difference in the sickness progressing. Yeah. And so, and then, like I speak of the Socratic oath, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. You see what I mean? Now, if you had the same now, let food be thy poison and the medicine also, just medicate the poison.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that people aren't doing, wanting to help people because they genuinely want to help people. What I'm saying is that this generation knew this, and then this generation was taught something different. And then this generation was taught even more of that, something different. And this generation was taught even more of that. But now we begin to normalise the food that isn't food that's actually harming us, because that's what we're taught to do, because we're all doing the things that we came here, and we were taught things about that aren't true. So we're taught to now be just working machines who don't really matter. We're just here to make somebody money. And that's what we're here for, or that's what it appears to be, unless we decide, as a collective otherwise. But other than that, it's like you cannot not see it, because in a generation that wasn't brought up with so many chemicals, and then you start looking at why people are getting sicker and sicker. It's, the world that I stood out in didn't look like this when I was young. But now you can see more people have got walking sticks in chairs, and doing all these things. Why is this illness? Because look at what we're doing differently. We're eating differently. We're looking at more violet films. So you're having pop-ups in your head, driving on the motorway thinking, I might crash into there, because you've seen all these things. So we're taking in physical, emotional, psychological, junk food. And that's what we're doing. So
yeah, and from my experience coming from an eating disorder perspective, when I was experiencing anorexia nervosa, I didn't care about my body, which is what I mentioned about loathing my body and seeing it different.
So let's just cross-reference that for a little bit. One, you didn't care about your body.
Yeah.
And so how many people do you think the food that they're eating, they don't care about what it's doing to the body?
No.
So can you see how there's more than one eating disorder?
Yeah.
Because it's in a disorder that, when, would you say that somebody that's an alcoholic cares about the body? No. Would you say that somebody that takes drugs cares about the body? No. So what do you think to people that eat food with all that? Do they care about it? They don't. But they believe a certain thing because somebody's told them.
Well, that's what I was thinking about when I'm thinking about diet advice and things like that, and it's about calories and things like that. When I first was thinking about losing weight, I was very calorie obsessed, and I wouldn't, if it had less calories, I wouldn't care what they're giving me. It might have a list of all chemicals and products in it, but I wouldn't care. I'd just look at the calories. I wouldn't care what I was putting in, rather than eating something fresh. Vegetables. I even stopped eating for a while. I stopped eating anything that didn't have a label on, because I didn't know how many calories were in it. Yes. I would only eat things with a label on, so I could monitor it.
That's it. So you can see that you've been directed into something that isn't nature, because nature doesn't have calories, and nature thrives, but we don't, and we have calories. Do you see what I mean? So people can only teach what they've been taught. So if they're teaching, just because we're taught something, it doesn't mean it's a fact.
I'm smiling because you've just had a pop-up in my head about my first memory relating to food is when I was 4 and I started school. I just turned 4 in the August and I started school in the September, and you had school dinners and milk every playtime. I didn't like milk. Tough, you drink it. Everybody has milk, you drink it. So I was like, what your body wants, tough. You just get done as you're told, do as you're told. And I can remember a dinner time very early on. I've got a vague picture of it, and you had to eat what they gave you, which, to be fair, is very much like my experience of an eating disorder service.
And I think as well, just on with the milk, is because they believe, because they were told it gives you calcium, it gives you this, and it gives you this.
Also, no, it made me ill because it made me feel sick.
Exactly. But what it also does, it now, dairy products, actually, when people have hay fever, it's because it's a reaction to the casein in the milk, to the dye. And so when you think these things, we're being told that these things are good for us, and it's only a few people that impacts. It's like, well, it's not. It's just that it might be only a few people that have reported their reaction to that. Or they might not even know that they're reacting to that. Because if an animal knows not to drink our milk, then they've got to be very intelligent compared to us if we're told to drink theirs.
Well,
you're drinking the pus from an animal?
Because I was watching a programme about a lion. It were only a clip because I get upset about animals, that upset. And it were a lion living in wild, wherever they live in wild. And it were old one, and it were dying because it couldn't hunt anymore. There were loads of grass and loads of trees and stuff around it, but that's not the natural diet. So it didn't eat them because their body isn't built for that.
Yes.
And that poor lion was starving to death. It didn't just take what was readily available because it's not designed to eat that. And I thought that was, again, thinking about how the body is designed to not eat loads of different chemicals and things like that. But again, going back to school, the other memory is school dinners. They made you eat what you didn't like regardless.
Yes.
You didn't have a voice.
Yes.
And I can remember with jelly, and I said, I can't eat jelly. I'll be sick. And they're tough, you eat it. And I was sick after, and I got told off for being sick. And then Mum took me out then, and I went home for my dinner after that. But it was like, that's when you're talking, I'm thinking, that is my earliest memory of my relationship with food, is those two experiences about what you want doesn't count.
Matter. You don't matter.
Yeah.
And what you want doesn't matter. It's what we've been taught, because they might have been taught that when they were grown up, they didn't matter. So, you're putting this in front of you and you're going to eat it. And that's what you've done ever since. But that's what majority of people do. You can put, if you make something look for somebody's tongue to taste, and it doesn't, but your taste buds have gone away from what they naturally have, and they're just so used to so much salt and sugar that anything that's like that, then you become addicted to it. So people have eating disorders who don't know they have, because food impacts your mood, so if and it impacts a lot more than your mood, actually, because your body's constantly telling you, but it's that where people don't want to address that.
Yeah.
Because it's so difficult, because they're not recognising you're addicted to it.
And some people, when I've talked, I've actually said, you've made me think about my relationship with food. Yeah, I might not have a diagnosable eating disorder, but hearing you speak, it's like, right, yeah, I have got certain issues or hang-ups or whatever you want to call it. But what you said about being healthy, food isn't. When I was being treated for anorexia nervosa, whereas you said food is a medicine, it heals in the natural world.
Look at how far back that was, though, the Socratic oath, and then the oath was changed, and it says to do no harm. But even that oath isn't honest now, and an oath is a promise. So the Socratic oath, it's very long, as I've put in the book, and it's very long, and it's to not harm, to heal. And that's why it said let food be thy medicine.
Mm.
But in the oath then, when it was changed, it was to do no harm. And it's like, but you are, because what's scary is that an oath is a promise. And yet, as I say, we have Stockholm syndrome, we constantly go back to people trusting them, that they're going to eventually turn out good. But we just keep believing people and going back. And that's what, I think it was probably insanity is doing the same thing and getting the same result.
Mm.
We keep going back for the same result. And how do we do that? Because these labels that we have of this is kindness and this is health and this is this and this is that, when actually, even the oath itself, which is a promise to do no harm, not to do a little bit of harm, it doesn't say a little bit of harm, it says no harm. And yet the third biggest killer is prescription drugs. I've never seen a killer from a cabbage, from a, from a potato.
Death by potato.
I've never seen a killer by those things, by any vegetable, yet they're demonized all the time. I've never seen that being a killer. And yet the first one, I think, is heart attacks. The second one is cancer. The third one is prescription drugs or overprescribing drugs.
Mm.
Now that's quite scary, isn't it? That, that you prescribe these things and it says do no harm, then that already makes that, a lie then.
Mm.
And so if I can understand where it takes a while for you to be able to see, as you're saying, it made me look and see something differently. I started to see these things in a different way of, this is what I'm actually doing. But when you can't see that and you continue with that and you continue under the lie that I'm not going to do you any harm, my intention isn't to do you any harm, but how can you have that intention when in people's own science, in their own science, that's what it's saying.
Well, I've never had a medication prescribed from a doctor that hasn't come with a leaflet with all the side effects or contraindications on.
Exactly.
And to be fair, because when I did my nursing, I was obsessed with the BNF. There wasn't a section. There wasn't. There wasn't a section.
Or else it works.
There wasn't a section on any medications that didn't have any side effects or contraindications.
Yes.
So every one of them does a little bit of harm, but it was going.
But did they do a little bit of harm? I mean, who measures the harm? If you just say, well, it's a side effect. When you get the side effect, who benefits? You have to ask who benefits from the side effect.
Do you tell anybody if you got the side effect?
Well, let's say people have IBS.
Mm.
They might take a medication that it only hurts a little bit. I mean, how do you know how it's going to feel for that person?
Mm.
But it actually is doing harm, because if it's hurting your stomach, and your stomach's the second brain, or I think the first really, but it's known as the second brain. If it's hurting your stomach, it's harming everything else in your body.
Mm.
So what you're going to do when it hurts your stomach, who's going to benefit from your discomfort? Well, that means we can just prescribe you another tablet for your stomach.
Mm.
So when we prescribe you something else then for your stomach, then what impact would that something else have?
Mm.
And then what else in the body can we prescribe for?
Mm.
So you end up just using the whole machine there. We'll just make that quiet. That's got noisy. Make that quiet. Medicate that one. There's a noise over here. Medicate that one. So it's a bit like, those games where you're constantly hitting that thing on the head because something's popping up. And it's like, it's like doing that with your body, that you just get one medication, then another, then another, then another. And I mean, you end up with a whole tray of medications because now the whole system's impacted. And then you feel trapped in it then. Mm. Because, you can't just stop taking it because you're going to have an impact from that, because your body's going to start screaming it. So it's that as generation after generation after generation's gone, it's introducing more and more and more chemicals into our diet, that it's barely the food it started with anymore. And it's all of those things that, it's just a bit of this and just a bit of that. But if you imagine in your cupboard, and you get a little bit of washing up liquid, and then a little bit of cleaning, and then a little bit of washing powder, a little bit of conditioner, a little bit of window clean, and a little bit of that, and a little bit of that. You can see we've got chemical toxic, different mixtures of. I mean, how toxic would that be? Do you see what I mean? And it's like, and that's what we're doing. It's just a little bit of E numbers, a little bit of that. It's like, how many do you eat in a day? Have a little bit of that one, and a little bit of that one, and a little bit of that one. And you look at all the different ones on the packets, and some of them are quite similar. And then that's what we're doing. And then, it kind of makes you realise, when my question was, why are we getting sicker? It's like, what are we doing differently to what was happening back then? And you can see it. And it comes under the, but when you taught these things and you believe I'm helping someone, and you taught that.
And it's like you say, particularly like when people with a label or people with a title or a qualification are giving you advice, you sort of tend to think, well, that's the right, that must be.
Because that's what they've learned.
Yeah.
But you don't know that what we're learning fact. That's the question we've not asked. Is what have we been learning? Is it a fact or is it a fiction? Does it just look like it's doing, or it looks like, it looks like you've quietened down. You're saying it doesn't hurt anymore, so that's worked. It's like, but I can't see in here, so how do I know if it has?
That's what it's making me think about my relationship with food. With the eating disorder service, their aim was to get me from 4 stone to what they classed as a healthy weight.
Yes.
And all that was just about eating a certain amount. You had to drink a pint of full fat milk a day. You had to eat this, that, and the other. They weren't bothered what it was. It was about getting the calories in. So it was all processed.
So it's
food, puddings, and chocolate and snacks. And if when you were introducing a snack, you couldn't have fruit or a yogurt. It had to be either a chocolate bar or a bag of crisps or a pudding. And it was all about, not about getting healthy, as in physically healthy or mentally healthy. It was just about achieving that goal of putting your weight on. Then they could discharge you.
But that's it. It's a false concept of health. You need to get you to your healthy weight. It's like, that is not health. That is not a healthy weight. It's just, you might as well, as I said before, you might as well weigh rocks. Well, rocks are probably more healthier actually. But you might as well just weigh rocks, and it doesn't make sense. How can somebody just say that we've got you to a healthy weight, and that's all we've said we're going to do, but you haven't. You haven't got the person to a healthy weight. You've just asked them to put a load of things in the body. You might as well have eaten.
Weigh more.
You just weigh more, but you've still got an eating disorder, and your body's still unhealthy. So it's that, or people say, because you have this idea of what a healthy diet is. Because somebody, I eat really well, and it's like, well, if you eat really well, why do you have the symptoms of having mucus, parasites, and worms in your body if you eat really healthy? So you're feeding them; they're the ones that's telling you to go.
And I think we're just very superficial, because recently I went to the doctor. She went, weight and check height and weight and all that. Oh, your BMI, you're healthy. And I went, I've got 2 eating disorders. And I explained what they were. She went, well, on paper, you're healthy anyway, and on system, you're healthy. Just because I've got a healthy weight, it discredited all the other damage that is happening in my body, because I have damaged my body, and it is damaged. And also what I continue to do.
Because it just perpetuates and continues. If we just look at this surface level that we've made up and we've created, we don't want to look underneath. So when you come in, and some people go, like they might be angry because the doctor might have said it's in your head. I've personally experienced that. Or they might have said it doesn't hurt that bad, as if they know how, my nervous system hurts or doesn't hurt. And other people, where they've said, oh, it's nothing, or things like that. So it's that, willful ignorance almost into, we'll stay on this level, but we don't go any deeper. And then when you look at nature compared to us, you see them. I see them all fit and healthy. That I don't see aging in nature. I don't see anything like that. I've never seen a wrinkly grey flower with a walking stick. I've never seen that. Do you see what I mean? Nature's healthy unless it injures itself. It's healthy. I don't. And it's that there is something that knows better than we do. So we deem ourselves intelligent, but well, we're not being what we're supposed to be. That's what.
Well, the book is definitely something that I refer back to and keep using as a reference point to remind me of those ingrained beliefs that I've had for 40 odd years, to remind me it hasn't stopped the way that I treat my body or how I feel about it, but it's when that automatic negativity or hatred comes, it's like, I remember, read that bit, remember, oh, that's why it's doing it, rather than, oh, that's happening at this time of the month or whatever. It's like, wow, that's amazing, that process that your body's just doing naturally. But I'm here wanting to hate and mutilate myself with it. So it's just a constant reminder of the reality, the wonders of nature and the reality of nature, rather than the story that I'm attaching to it.
Well, that's when you think of, as I've written in the book, of, the search of how people used to speak about good and evil, or we don't believe in certain things and we don't believe in certain other things. Just having a look back in history and saying, how did we get to this point? What's happened to us for us to get to this point? That we're taught really not to love ourselves at all, because that's exactly what we've been taught. All of us have been taught not to love ourselves, apart from those that have been taught to love themselves, which is, monks and people like that, is to realize who they really are, instead of just realizing, what a false facade is. Our external world to ourselves is a false world that we've made up. Why are we in this false world that doesn't have the human benefit at heart? It only has money and profit at heart. And so then you have to ask yourself, every time I put something in this vessel, who is benefiting from this? And, is it my taste buds? Because when I stopped eating chemicals, that's all I could taste was chemicals in the food. It was, and to know that when you're eating meat, you're eating worms. When you know that that's what you're feeding, it's like, wow, it's quite an eye opener to realise. I understand why sickness is here, why we're all.
And I think a lot of us live with the mentality of, I'll use my mum as an example. When I was talking to her about it, she's like, oh, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. And I think that's what a lot of people, myself included, when you're in that thing, like, just sweep your head in the carpet. I don't care don't tell me that stuff. I'm just going to enjoy my McDonald's, or I'm just going to eat in my McDonald's, or whatever it is.
Because I'm addicted to it.
Yeah.
It's the same as somebody that takes drugs that isn't bothered as long as they get fixed. Somebody that's drink, it's like it's an addiction. And that's what people do. And they say, "Oh, I have a healthy diet," and it's like it's healthy because somebody else told you.
Yeah.
But have you literally done that? Have you looked into that for yourself? Have you tested it on yourself? Have you had a look for yourself? Because at some point, we have to start looking for ourselves. Because as I've written, the doctor said, he said, if you don't love yourself, you don't love anybody else. So if you're poisoning yourself, you also poison everyone else around you if you're feeding them the same stuff. And that's what I name it as, because what else could it be called, really? We can call it chemicals, but what's the reaction to our body? Well, it doesn't like it. So, and ultimately that's what I was writing about.
I'm grateful you have, because it's like having therapy with me all the time that I can refer back to, or that I need, and that kind of thing, just to bring you back to the real reality, not the false one that we live in.
Yeah, just to say this is, well, really it was just to offer a choice. Yeah, we have autonomy, use it. Using it, or is it being used?